Hey Dethroners, welcome back to the Dethroning Your Inner Critic YouTube channel. I'm your host, Joanna Kleinman, psychotherapist, empowerment coach, and CEO of Dethroning Your Inner Critic coaching and transformation company. And today, I want to talk to you about the most important question of your life. Everybody wants to feel good. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants their life to be easy. Everyone wants the business that they want to have. Everyone wants to have amazing relationships, to be in great shape, to make the money we want, to be well respected and admired, right? Everyone would want that. And listen, it's easy to want that. So if I were to ask you, what is it that you really want out of your life? You might say, I want to be happy. I want my family to be happy. I want a great career or a great business, right? And it's kind of vague, right? It doesn't really mean anything. So maybe a more important question, maybe it's a question that you've never considered before, is what pain am I willing to face? What pain am I willing to come face to face with? Right? Because everybody wants what they want. They want to have awesome relationships and maybe even have great sex. But not everyone is willing to have the hard conversations in the relationship or to examine and express and take responsibility for their feelings that are hurt, or to take any ownership of the role that they play in why there are some relationship issues that continue to resurface. Okay. So many people have a tough time taking ownership for their role in why there are parts of their life that aren't going the way that they want them to. And they view pain as something that is negative and something that is to be avoided at all costs. Now, the reality is that it's really important for us to be willing to come face to face with our pain, because it's the meaning that we assign to our pain that actually gives us our life purpose. Okay. I know that's hard to understand, but unless we know what meaning we're assigning to things that happen in our past, to fears that we have about our future, we can't really know where we're going. Okay. And most people don't realize this. And this is so important because most people spend their life just settling. So they keep staying in the same vicious cycle. So the same issues in their relationship keep surfacing, the same complaints, the same judgments, the same fears. And they might want things to be different. They might wait for things to be different. Okay? Like John Mayer says, waiting for the world to change. We keep waiting for the world to change. And eventually, the more we keep waiting for something else to change, nothing changes. Okay. Now, I've seen this with people in my life. I've seen this with family members that are now in their 70s and 80s, and they're approaching the end of their lives, and they never filled their life's purpose. They gave up on their dreams. Right? They stayed in relationships that were unhealthy and where they were unhappy, and they're still in those relationships. Some of them should have changed careers a long time ago, but they stayed in a career that was unfulfilling because they were too afraid to make the change. And nothing changed because they believed that they were powerless to change their lives. They had very automatic expectations and standards about how their life was supposed to be. And they accepted things that they never should have accepted. Things that I never would accept, because I've trained myself to take steps towards the things that are fearful, towards the things that I might not know what the outcome is going to be. But many people stay stuck because they'd rather stay in the familiar than face the unknown. Okay. And I can see now so clearly that the only reason why I expect different things from life is because I know that I'm the creator of all of it. So I stopped blaming other people or circumstances for how my life unfolds. So true happiness requires that we see that our life is really a reflection of our deepest beliefs and our deepest fears. So if we aren't willing to examine our deepest beliefs and our deepest fears, they're going to govern how our life unfolds. And the problem is that most people would rather keep their beliefs and fears hidden in the dark and avoid looking at them at all costs. So at the core of all human behavior, all of our needs are more or less pretty similar, okay? And when we have good experiences in our lives, that's easy. It's the negative experiences that we struggle with. But I promise you, it's not the experiences themselves, okay? It's the meaning that gets automatically assigned to the circumstances. So what we get out of our life is never determined by the good feelings that we want to have. Our life is determined by facing the feelings that are uncomfortable and painful to us and understanding exactly where they're coming from. So I've seen far too many people in my life who've been stuck for their whole life. They couldn't get out of their own way because they weren't willing to do the deep inner work that's required for us to live the life that we really want to be living. Okay. I have somebody very close to me. She wanted to start her own business and become financially independent. She never did. She talked about it a lot. She's now in her mid-60s. She could still do it. But she's gotten so used to just existing. And I love her, and it's really hard to watch. But the truth is, you don't end up a successful entrepreneur unless you're able to take a risk and deal with all the uncertainty that comes and all of the repeated failures that come. And to work really hard on something when you have no idea whether or not it will be successful. That is the only way that you can ever become a successful entrepreneur. I know somebody that is in his late 30s, and he is desperately wanting a spouse. He wants to start a family, but he's afraid he'll be rejected because he believes that he isn't financially independent enough. And so year after year, he won't put himself out there. He won't face the possibility of rejections or staring at his phone that, never rings after a great date. But that's part of finding the love of your life, right? You can't win if you're not willing to play. You've got to risk. Some dates aren't going to go the way you want them to, or you think they're going great, but then the other person ghosts you. That's the name of the game. It's not pretty, but that's what you've got to be willing to endure if you're going to put yourself out there. See, what determines your success is not what do you want to enjoy. The question is always, what pain are you willing to face? Because the quality of life is not determined by the quality of your great experiences. It's your willingness to see the role that you are playing in the results that you're producing in your life. And to get really good at managing your mind around the experiences and the people that trigger you. Right? To get really good at recognizing exactly what is triggering you into those painful emotions. That's how you get really good at dealing with life. That's how you get really good at navigating your life. Right? Now, there's a lot of not so great advice out there. Okay? There's a lot of books and different coaches that will say, you've just got to want it badly enough. I don't agree with that, okay? Because there are definitely things that we can all look at and say, I really want that, okay? And I really want that badly. But that doesn't mean that you're willing to do the hard work that's required to get that thing, okay? You could want something with every fiber of your being, okay? But if you don't understand how to think the thoughts you need to think and embody the beliefs about yourself and your future that is going to make that a reality, you're going to want for forever. Okay? So if you find yourself really wanting something month after month, year after year, and yet nothing happens, and you've never come any closer to it, then maybe what you actually want is more of a fantasy, an ideal picture that your inner critic has created. Maybe what you want isn't really what you want. Maybe what you really want is to stay safe, to stay in the familiar, to stay in the known. Maybe you don't want to experience the pain that comes with going for what you really want. Okay? Maybe you might say you want it, but what you really don't understand is that there's something more hidden that you really want more than the thing that you say that you want. So again, the question to ask yourself is, what are you afraid of feeling? What pain are you willing to face? Because that tells you far more about yourself than what you say you want. Because here's the deal. You can't have a pain-free life. It can't all be roses and unicorns, ever. Okay? Ultimately, the hard question that really matters is, are you willing to face your pain? Pleasure, that's easy. Okay? We all want pleasure. The more interesting question is, are you willing to lean into your pain, to feel your discomfort on purpose? So what's the pain you've been avoiding? See, the answer to that question will actually get you somewhere. That's the question that can change your life. That's what really matters. That's what makes me, me. That's what makes you, you. What is the pain that you've been avoiding? That's what defines us. And it ultimately makes us recognize that we are all more alike than we are different. Okay? So for most of my adolescence and my young adulthood, I fantasized about writing a book. I wanted to inspire people to live their most fulfilling lives. And that fantasy was something that could keep me occupied for hours on end, okay? So I fantasized that throughout college. I fantasized about that throughout graduate school. I fantasized about that for much of my early adult life. Okay. And then at 32 years old, I opened up my own practice as a psychotherapist, but I was still fantasizing. And I kept believing that someday that would happen. Someday I would have what it took to write a book. I didn't have it yet, or so I thought. Okay. So I was biding my time before I could invest the proper amount of time and the proper amount of effort that was needed to make that a reality. Okay. So I believed that first I needed to get more confidence, right? And then I needed to understand how to become a writer. And then I needed to understand exactly what the steps are to market myself. And I needed a plan. And then nothing happened. I stayed in my private practice for 10 years without doing anything about following my dream. Okay. So despite fantasizing about this for over half my life, that reality didn't come because I wasn't willing to really do the deeper work to look at the pain that I was avoiding. Okay. And when I looked, what I saw is that my inner critic convinced me that I actually didn't have what it took to make that dream a reality. Okay. I focused a lot on wanting to impact people in a bigger way, but I believed deep down that I had to become someone else first. Okay. I had to make sure that before I took any action, my book would be a success. It wouldn't fail. And because of those beliefs, I didn't take any action and it stayed a fantasy. And what I didn't see at the time was that my deeper hidden commitment, okay, my deeper want was to make sure that I always felt good and that I always felt like I was good enough and I wouldn't fail and I wouldn't get rejected and I wouldn't get judged and I wouldn't lose money and I wouldn't lose time. Okay. So when we are going for our dreams, it is a mountain that we have to climb. And it took me a long time to discover that I was avoiding the climb because the climb came with fear and failure and rejection and things not going the way that I wanted them to. And the more that I resisted those parts of the climb, the more frustrated and miserable I became. So I imagined only the top of the mountain, right? Now looking back, it's what happened during the climb that's changed every single part of my life. And by the way, I'm climbing the next mountain right now and facing deeper levels of my inner critic's pain. And that is continuing to change every single part of my life. See, our culture would tell me that when my business didn't make money for the first few years, that somehow I failed myself. Somehow I wasn't good enough and I should just quit. And traditional therapy or coaching would make me try to develop the courage to take the steps to believe in myself first, right? And, maybe I would do affirmations or I would join a mastermind group or, right, practice the art of manifesting. But the truth is, the only thing that really works is to learn how to master your mind along the way. Because here's the thing, the most exciting, fulfilling lives only come when we are willing to wrap our arms around the process and lean into the struggle. And most people want the reward without the struggle. They want the results, but they don't want to climb the mountain. But it's in the struggle that we transform every single part of our lives. Because the way we do something is the way we do everything. So who you are and the life you create is defined not by your circumstances, not by your past, not by who you think you are. It's only defined by your willingness to see where your pain keeps showing up and keeps your past right here in your present and then smeared all over your future. See, everything in our life is actually unfolding perfectly. If you learn to relax and find ease in trusting that your well-being is actually your birthright and that you don't have to fear anything down the line, that whatever shows up, you'll be able to handle, that's when amazing things are going to happen. Okay? Things the likes of which you haven't seen yet. Everything along your path is an opportunity to get more and more clear about where you're stuck in your past beliefs that have been masquerading as the truth for a really long time. So when you keep your focus on your vision and you keep asking the question, what pain am I willing to face? That's how you can keep taking each step towards your vision. And that's how all of your experiences become your greatest vehicles for growth and transformation. So when we can use all of our life, not just the parts of our life where we're wanting to experience the good emotions and circumstances, but use all of our life, that is how we become the best versions of ourselves right now. Not when our circumstances match our inner critic's ideal. So my favorite part of the Mastering Your Mind program is the ability for all of us to see life as an ongoing opportunity for our growth. Because that's when I see women really coming alive. That's when they're willing to show up and do the work and clearly see the blind spots that have kept them stuck for their whole lives. Many of them have never seen it before. And when they're willing to see it not just in themselves, but in each other, the connection, the love, the support shows up in ways that I have never experienced before. So, ask yourself the most important question. Keep looking at what shows up when you're willing to actually feel your pain and let it use you as the vehicle for growth. If you're interested in hearing about my Mastering Your Mind program and whether that just might be the support that you need to take yourself and your life to the next level, you can go to my website, dethroningyourinnercritic.com, and schedule a clarity conversation with me. Let's see if it's a fit. I promise, either way, even if it's not fit for you, we'll have a great conversation. Dethroningyourinnercritic.com. Thanks for listening, everybody.